One of the harder truths in life is that many people spend decades surrounded by voices and still never learn how to sit quietly with themselves. They learn how to be useful, how to answer the phone on the second ring, how to keep the meal moving, the bills paid, the peace kept, the family stitched together. They learn how to be wanted. But being wanted is not the same as being at peace. And when the house finally goes quiet, when the children are grown, when work no longer calls the shots, when the evening stretches out longer than it used to, that silence can feel less like rest and more like exposure. That is where a lot of people get frightened. Not because solitude is cruel, but because it is honest. Loneliness and solitude are cousins, but they are not the same person. Loneliness says, nobody came. Solitude says, at last, I have a minute to hear myself think. One leaves you feeling shut out in the cold. The other can feel like closing the front door after a long day, taking off your shoes, and hearing nothing but the refrigerator hum and the old clock in the hall. For some people, that sound is a comfort. For others, it is unbearable. Why? Because silence does not only bring peace, it also brings up what noise has been covering. That is why so many people keep something on all the time. The television muttering in the background, the radio in the car, even for a 5-minute trip, endless errands, endless checking, endless little distractions. It looks harmless. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it is a way of never being left alone with the parts of life that hurt. The grief you postponed because there was too much to do. The resentment you swallowed because other people needed you cheerful. The fear that creeps in when you can no longer hide inside activity. Solitude does not create these things. It uncovers them. And that is exactly why it can make you stronger. Not all at once, not dramatically. Usually not with music playing in the background and some grand revelation landing on your shoulder like a bird from heaven. Real strength rarely arrives like that. More often it comes quietly, in the plainest moments. You are standing at the sink, washing one cup. You are sitting at the kitchen table before dawn with a hand wrapped around a mug that has a chip on the rim. You are looking out the window at a bare tree in winter, and for once you are not trying to distract yourself from your own mind. You stay there. That matters. More than most people realize. A man once spent most of his life being admired for how reliable he was. Everyone had a use for him. He was the one who showed up, fixed things, gave advice, stayed late, carried more than his share. People praised him for it. He believed the praise because it felt better than asking himself a harder question. Who am I when nobody needs anything from me? Then age did what age does. The pace changed. The calls slowed down. He had more hours than he knew what to do with. At first, he hated it. He walked from room to room as if he had misplaced something. In a way, he had. He had built a whole identity around being necessary, and now he was face to face with the person underneath that role. He told me once, I thought I was losing myself. Turns out I was meeting myself. I just didn't like the introduction. Fair enough. Most honest meetings start that way. This is what people often miss. Solitude is not a reward handed to saints. It is a room where the masks stop working. That can feel like relief, or it can feel like a small death. Sometimes both. When nobody is watching, who are you? When nobody is praising you, what still feels worth doing? When there is no applause, no audience, no demand, what remains true? Those are not decorative questions. They cut close to the bone. But if you stay with them long enough, they begin to clear something out. Think about muddy water in a bucket after a hard rain. If you keep stirring it, it stays cloudy. If you set it down and leave it alone, the dirt settles. You do not need to lecture the water. You do not need to force it into clarity. You stop agitating it. That is what solitude can do for a human being. Not fix every sorrow, not erase every regret, but settle the constant inner shaking enough for you to see what is actually there. And what is there may not be pretty at first. Some people sit in silence and meet old anger, old shame, the memory of a betrayal they thought they were over, the ache of being overlooked, the exhaustion of always having been the strong one. If that happens, do not treat it as failure. It is not failure. It is the bill finally coming due for years of emotional postponement. Better to sit with it now than drag it around forever and call it personality. There is a tenderness required here, not self-pity, not indulgence, tenderness, a soft but steady willingness to stay present without turning away. That kind of inner posture matters, especially later in life when people have had enough experience to know that pain does not respond well to force. If you have ever tried to open a jar with arthritic hands, you understand the principle. Some things yield to strength. Other things require patience, a better grip, a cloth around the lid, a pause, another try. The inner life is often like that. You do not bully yourself into peace. A woman told me that after her husband died, the hardest part was not the paperwork or the funeral or even the first holidays. It was 5:30 in the evening. That hour, the one when the day tips over and the house tells the truth. No footsteps. No second plate. No familiar voice asking where the scissors went. She said the silence felt so sharp she kept the television on just to blunt the edge of it. Then one winter morning, before daylight, she sat in her kitchen with a cup of tea and did nothing. No news, no radio, no phone in her hand. She watched the dark windows slowly turn gray. She listened to the pipes knock in the walls. She cried a little. Then she stopped. Then she just sat there. After a few weeks of this, she said something I have never forgotten. I thought the silence was swallowing me. It was giving me back to myself. That is not a small thing. That is a turning point. People talk about strength as if it always has to look forceful. It doesn't. Sometimes strength is staying in the quiet long enough for your nerves to stop jumping. Sometimes it is turning down an invitation because you know you are too worn thin to make cheerful conversation. Sometimes it is eating supper without needing a screen in front of you. Sometimes it is admitting that you are lonely without making a fool of yourself trying to outrun the feeling. Sometimes it is saying, very simply, this is where I am today, and not dressing it up. There is dignity in that, a real kind, the kind nobody can award you. A tree does not become solid by being admired by the forest. It becomes solid by standing through weather. Dry years, wind, weight, loss of branches, winter after winter. Human beings are no different. The people who carry a calm steadiness into old age are usually not the ones who were most praised. They are the ones who learned, somewhere along the line, how to live without constant external confirmation. They learned how to be in a room by themselves without feeling erased. That changes everything. It changes how you love. It changes how you grieve. It changes how you endure disappointment. It even changes how you speak, because you are no longer trying so hard to be approved of. And yes, this affects relationships. In a good way. When you are terrified of being alone, you ask other people to do jobs they were never meant to do. Reassure me. Complete me. Distract me from myself. Keep me from feeling empty. That is too much weight to put on anyone. But when solitude becomes something other than an enemy, you come to people differently, less clingy, less hungry, less likely to confuse attention with love. You can enjoy company without depending on it to prove that your life has meaning. That makes affection cleaner. It makes friendship lighter. It makes love more honest. Some people resist all this because they think choosing time alone means becoming cut off, bitter, or strange. It doesn't. Solitude is not withdrawal from life when it is healthy. It is a return to center. It is maintenance for the soul, if you want the plainest phrase. Like sharpening a dull knife. Like sitting down after carrying grocery bags too long. Like loosening your collar at the end of a hot day. Necessary things. Ordinary things. No performance required. But let's not romanticize it. There are days when being alone feels heavy, especially if your body hurts or sleep has become uneven, or the people you loved most are no longer within reach. On those days, solitude may not feel noble at all. It may feel like a long afternoon with bad knees and too much memory. That is real. No need to pretend otherwise. The point is not to enjoy every quiet hour. The point is to stop treating every quiet hour as a problem that must be filled immediately. There is a difference. If you want to build strength in solitude, start small. Very small. Sit by the window for 10 minutes without reaching for anything. Walk around the block without earbuds and let your mind make its own noise. Have 1 cup of coffee without reading or scrolling or calling someone just to break the silence. Fold laundry with both hands and pay attention to the simple fact that you are here, doing one thing at a time. These are not glamorous practices. Good. Most things that truly steady a person are not glamorous. And pay attention to the inner voice that shows up when the room gets quiet. Not the panicked voice. Not the old critic that sounds suspiciously like somebody from 40 years ago. I mean the quieter one underneath all that. The one that does not shout. The one that says, "Enough for today." Or, "You miss this." Or, "You never really wanted that life." Or, "Call your sister." Or, "Forgive him and stop carrying it." Or, "No, do not go back there." That voice is easy to miss when life is loud. Solitude makes it easier to hear. And hearing it, really hearing it, is a form of strength. Because strength is not just endurance. It is self-trust. It is knowing that if the day comes when plans fall apart, when people disappoint you, when the world goes quiet in ways you did not choose, you will not instantly collapse into panic. You may hurt. Of course you will. But you will not be a stranger to yourself. You will know how to sit down, wait, listen, and let the first storm inside you pass without obeying it. That is enormous. More valuable than most of what people spend their best years chasing. The modern world has trained people to fear emptiness because emptiness does not sell well. Silence cannot be marketed. Stillness does not flatter the ego. A quiet morning with no one praising you feels invisible by the standards of this culture. But invisibility, in small doses, can be medicinal. It gives you a break from performing. It lets the nervous system loosen its grip. It reminds you that your life is not valuable only when someone is reacting to it. Maybe that is the deepest gift of solitude. It returns you from image to substance, from role to person, from performance to presence. And presence is where peace begins, not excitement, not distraction, peace, the kind that can sit in a simple room, the kind that can hear rain at the window and not immediately need to photograph it, text about it, explain it, or turn it into something useful. Just rain, just a room, just one life being lived from the inside. That sort of life may look plain from the outside. Let it. At a certain age, plain can be a blessing. Plain means honest. Plain means you are no longer spending yourself trying to look important. Plain means you can taste your food, hear your own footsteps, feel when your heart is tired, and know when enough is enough. There is wisdom in that. Hard-earned wisdom. The kind you do not get from slogans. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush quite so fast to call it emptiness. Wait a minute. Let the room be what it is. Let the chair hold you. Let the day come in through the window without asking it to entertain you. If grief is there, let it sit down. If relief is there, let that sit down too. If nothing much happens, that is fine. Most of life is not revelation. Most of life is repetition, weather, dishes, memory, breath. And still, somehow, a soul is formed in the middle of all that. A good life is built there. In the quiet nobody claps for. In the evenings when you do not run. In the mornings before the world starts making demands. In the honest admission that you are tired of noise and no longer willing to confuse busyness with purpose. Solitude will not make you superhuman. It will do something better. It will make you more solid. less easily pushed around by opinion, less desperate for attention, more able to tell the difference between what matters and what merely shouts. Over time, that changes the feel of your whole life. You stop needing so much from the world. And then, strangely enough, you are able to love the world more. So guard a little empty space in your day, not as a punishment, as a kindness. Learn the sound of your own unhurried thoughts. Learn what rises in you when the noise drops away. Stay long enough to get past the first restlessness. Stay long enough to hear something truer than habit. What waits there may be sorrow at first, or fatigue, or a loneliness you have been dodging for years. But if you do not run, if you remain gentle and honest, something else begins to appear underneath it. A steadiness, a clarity, a quiet kind of company. Your own. And that may be one of the strongest places you will ever stand.